So with the coveted Black Diamond Trophy on the line, you knew that both teams would just lay it all out on the field as Virginia Tech outlasted West Virginia 31-24. So considering that West Virginia behind Will Greer drove it down the field all the way down to the 15-yard line and did not complete the drive with seconds left to play, and the final score was 31-24, it shows you, had West Virginia completed that drive to make it 31, all send the game into overtime. That's how close the two teams were. They basically traded blows the entire night. What was a defensive struggle and was anticipated to be a defensive game turned into a shootout in the second half. Josh Jackson, in his first career start, redshirt freshman quarterback who won a three-man competition in Blacksburg, was the star of the game in a winning effort in which he scored the game-winning touchdown or led the game-winning touchdown drive to break a 24 all-time. So we knew that it was to the detriment of Gerard Evans to leave early for the NFL. We thought it was to his detriment, which it has been. And we thought it was to the detriment of the Virginia Tech football program. Not necessarily. Josh Jackson made some mistakes, showed his inexperience at times, but I believe that it was telling in some of the comments that were made by the announcers on ESPN or on ABC, the ESPN crew, in regards to Justin Fuente's style of offense, the complexity at which he likes to run his passing game that goes back to his days of coaching Andy Dalton at TCU, what he was unable to do last season, and in particular, what he had to pull back for Paxton Lynch, who, of course, is now in his second season with the Denver Broncos, while Fuentes was at Memphis, but feels comfortable and confident that Josh Jackson will be able to retain and execute at Virginia Tech. Speaks miles for the new Virginia Tech quarterback, who threw for about 269 yards and ran for 101, and again led the game-winning touchdown drive to make it 31-24. This was an offensive firepower type game in the second half. Cam Phillips caught 7 passes for $138, and with Bucky Hodges and Isaiah Ford moving on from the 2016 team onto the NFL, you wonder where Virginia Tech's going to go elsewhere in the passing game when defenses focus on Cam Phillips. Exceptional receiver, but he's not a burner. He's not going to blow the top off a defense and take it deep. He did a few times in this game. He had a great third and long play down the right sideline. Didn't use his speed. He used his vertical ability and his ability to high point the football and outfight the defender physically for the football to make that big play on a touchdown scoring drive. They need a complemented receiver. Sean Savoy's a possibility for receptions for him, but he was not highly recruited out of high school, doesn't necessarily have that skill set, was just a top 100 receiver in this 2017 class out of Washington, D.C. And C.J. Carroll, diminutive at 5'7", plays in the slot. He would not be necessarily option number 2 for this team. Also at the running back position for Virginia Tech, Deshaun McClease appears to me to be the best of the 3 options at running back. He ran 8 times for 51 yards and 1 touchdown. Several times was trapped in the backfield, made yards out of nothing, spun away from defenders, broke tackles, made big plays in the running game to give Virginia Tech at least a semblance of a running game in favors of Stephen Peoples, and also the former 1,000-yard back and starter Trayvon McMillan, who's trying to wrestle away his job back. So those are the questions for Virginia Tech, but they win a very important game at FedEx Field tonight over a Big 12 opponent in West Virginia that went 10-3 last season. Of course, Will Greer coming in as the new starting quarterback after being suspended at Florida and leaving there after winning 6 out of 6 games for the Gators. Greer threw it 53 times for 31 completions, 371 yards, ran for almost 100 yards, and almost pulled it out at the end. My takeaways in this game in particular: tremendous throws by both quarterbacks. So Josh Jackson, in addition to his running threat, is a big, strong, fast kid. Showed us the ability on one particular play, rolling right. He was completely annihilated by the linebacker right in the midsection as he was delivering the ball on the almost dead run and delivered a strike inside the 10-yard line. That was a beautiful throw in which he had no momentum going into the throw because his gut was basically being thrown back into his ribs at the same time that he was trying to release the ball. That was a great throw by Josh Jackson. It shows you what kind of talent and arm strength that he has. He threw it on a dime with velocity for a big completion in a touchdown drive that converted a third down. Will Grier off his back foot to the sideline inside the 20. That was a great throw that he made off the scramble later for the first down. Then he threw the slant to Sills for the touchdown to tie the game at 17 all. Interesting story, of course, as it was discussed many times during the broadcast of one David Sills, who was recruited by Lane Kiffin to go to USC when he was in 7th grade. He later wanted to play quarterback, left the football team, went to JUCO, came back because he couldn't make it as a quarterback, and he is going to be West Virginia's one of their main threats. He caught 2 touchdown passes tonight. Gary Jennings, lightly regarded 3-star. When we say lightly regarded, relatively speaking to most of the athletes that we talk about on here on our recruiting analysis of 5 and 4-star quality, caught 13 for 189. Much was made about the West Virginia wide receiver core being depleted, but these two guys should carry the load and do it very favorably after Jennings only caught 10 passes and 2 touchdowns last year, caught 13 tonight for the Mountaineers, and they were up to the challenge offensively. They rang up just shy of 600 yards total offense in this game against Virginia Tech. Again, the difference in the game was basically they did not complete the last drive that would have tied the score at 31, plus Grier threw 1 interception that killed 1 possession. So it was a 1 possession difference. That was your possession right there. The Hokies did miss 2 field goals, which is not customary for them. Justin Crawford with a big game for West Virginia as the Mountaineers appear to be ready to compete in the Big 12 Conference, depending on how Oklahoma and Oklahoma State fare defensively. We would expect those to be the 2 best teams in the Big 12 right now, but West Virginia going up against what's possibly about the 4th to 5th best team in the ACC, and they lose it at the wire in what was a neutral site game, but you would have to give a slight edge in terms of crowd backing to the Hokies of Virginia Tech. Also costly in this game, there was a 3rd and 1 after the Hokies had scored, and West Virginia needed to answer, and they made a couple big plays both through the air and on the ground to 3rd and 1 past midfield, and then they had a holding penalty. Dana Holgerson went ballistic, as he did a couple times on the sideline, brought it back to a 3rd and 26 situation. Of course, they didn't convert, and that blew that drive. Also later in the game, again, after the Hokies scored and the Mountaineers needed to respond, they made a couple big plays, got it past midfield. Then it was 4th and 2, and Dana Holgerson, uncustomary for him, who usually gambles in these situations, decided to punt. Now, I backed that decision, so I'll let you know that. But they punted to the 18-yard line, and that was actually in a tie game, and they punted to the 18-yard line instead of going for the 4th and 2, and that's when Josh Jackson led the game-winning drive. So hindsight's 2020. You could say that Holgerson should have gone for it, knowing that his defense was not stopping Virginia Tech most of the night. They needed to convert, could have taken the lead there, but he decided to pin Virginia Tech back. It backfired. 6 plays later, 82 yards covered by Jackson and company for the game-winning touchdown. Second to last play of the game, after Will Grier had brought the team all the way down the field, he was hurried from all sides, boxed in. He stepped up in the pocket, didn't have his feet set or under him, and had to use his arm strength to try to make it to the end zone from about the 22-yard line, and couldn't get quite enough on it, either from the standpoint of accuracy or strength. And it appeared as though Sills could have made a play on the ball, but it would have been a pretty difficult catch to make. And after the two offensive line penalties on the last play of the game, that was it for West Virginia. So the Big 12 has lost some embarrassing games elsewhere, meaning Baylor losing to Liberty inexplicably, but to the Big 12 losing its two big non-conference matchups, Texas as a 19-point favorite against Maryland, and also West Virginia now losing in a very respectable fashion, but still it's a loss against the ACC. These are games that, unless Oklahoma can defeat Ohio State, are going to be pointed to as marking and indicating the continued demise of the Big 12 in comparison to the other conferences when it comes college football playoff selection committee time. I will release, after the Tennessee Georgia Tech game concludes the weekend, my conference rankings. I will rate the conferences each and every week, and we will start with week one once the Yellow Jackets and the Vols are in the books sometime tomorrow night or the next morning. Rank the conferences 1 through 5 to stir up some nice discussion and debate with you. Follow me for my discussions with some of the best bloggers and broadcasters in college football. Those audio discussions in length, in full length, are available on Podbean, iTunes, and Stitcher. And then, of course, subscribe to my YouTube channel right here at Mark Rogers TV.